Okay, welcome everyone. Great to see you today. Hope you're having a nice day so far. Good afternoon. We're going to learn a Rashi today from the fourth Aliyah, since it is Wednesday. Continuing in Parshas Mishpatim, the Parsha of many, many mitzvos. Each Aliyah is packed with different mitzvahs. It's hard to actually understand why the psukim flow from one to the next, why one mitzvah goes into the next, why these are batched together in the current order that we have in our Parsha. And that's a study that some of the Mefarshim like to engage in terms of what the order is and what the connection is. But they seem kind of random. It goes from one topic to another topic to another topic. But here at the beginning of the fourth Aliyah for today, we have an interesting pasuk. I wouldn't even call it a mitzvah, and that's going to be what we address in the context of our Rashi today, but an interesting pasuk nonetheless. The pasuk says, "V'anshe kodesh tiyun li," you shall be a holy people to me. Uvasar basadeh trefa lo sochelu. You shouldn't eat a trefa in the field. Lakelev tashlichun oso. You should give it over to the dog. You should send it. You should throw it to the dog. Cast it to the dogs, as it says here in the English. So there's three parts to this pasuk. You see, I've highlighted them in different colors over here. It's hard to know exactly what the connection is. But in general, this pasuk is telling us the prohibition of eating a treifa. Why exactly we're being told that now is not so clear, since a treifa we know is not kosher. A treifa is an animal that has a certain kind of blemish. Rashi points out the fact that it's talking about a sadeh here is not necessarily limited to the fact that this applies only in a field. This is just talking about the most common case. The case where you usually find a damaged animal is an animal damaged by another animal or damaged somehow in its excursions in the field, and therefore you might come upon treifa in the field. You're not allowed to eat it. So the Torah gives the corrective measure, so to speak. If you're not allowed to eat it, what are you supposed to do with it? You should feed it to the dogs, cast it to the dogs. The question is,
Rabbi, one question.
yeah.
Is a treifa a kosher animal to begin with, but that has a blemish? Or is it a non-kosher, or does it include non-kosher animals as well?
In this context, it's talking about, well, could it include? Yes, it could. But treifa generally is talking about a kosher animal that dies with some kind of blemish. But it could, I guess, be talking about a non-kosher animal. But here in the context of the pasuk, it's not talking about like treif, as in a non-kosher species.
Okay, thank you.
As opposed to a nevela. A nevela is a kosher animal that dies without kosher shchita. So that's a different kind of problem, and there's different ramifications to nevela versus treifa, but perhaps for another time. So here, the question is, what the two pieces of the pasuk have to do with one another? It's telling us, anshe kodesh tiyun li, and then basar basadeh treifa lo sochelu. So if I read it at first glance, I would say, anshe kodesh tiyun li is like the heading of the pasuk. It says, you shall be holy to me. And what does being holy involve? What does it encompass? One of the things it encompasses is not eating treifa in the field. And instead of eating treifa in the field, what should you do with the treifa? Lakelev tashlichun oso. You should feed it to the dogs, send it to the dogs. However, Rashi says it's not exactly the case over here. Even though this is the order of the pasuk, the meaning of the pasuk is slightly switched around. Anshe kodesh tiyun li. Imatem kedoshim uprushim mishikutze nevelos v'treifos hareatem sheli. V'im lav einchem sheli. Rather, it's the opposite. How do you become a people that's holy? How do you gain that title? You gain it by not engaging in the eating of nevelos and treifos, right? I would have thought that the opposite. There's a declarative statement. Anshe kodesh tiyun li. You should be a holy people to me. Meaning you are a holy people. You're a people that's above everybody else. You're a people that's distinguished from everybody else. You're a people that has a higher status than everybody else. And one of the things that entails in terms of gaining that higher status is not doing X, Y, and Z, not eating a treifa in the field. Rashi's saying it's the opposite. Rashi's saying it's the not eating of a treifa in the field that gains you the status of Anshe Kodesh. It's the engagement in the mitzvahs that gains us the status as a holy people, which is a fascinating way to look at it. It's basically saying that we have to earn the right to achieve that title of being a holy people. It's not something bestowed upon us and that's a given for us, in which case there's all kinds of responsibilities that come with it. No, but it's as a result of engaging in those responsibilities that we gain the title. And if we don't, ilav einchem sheli. Anshe Kodesh Tiyumli, God says, you're my holy people. But if you don't engage in my mitzvahs, you don't engage in your responsibilities, then you don't gain that status of Kodesh, and you're not Sheli, you're not mine. It's a very harsh way to state it here in the Rashi. Perhaps we could state it in a little bit of a softer way, in the sense that we don't gain the status of God's chosen people, don't gain the status of Anshe Kodesh unless we engage in the mitzvahs. But nonetheless, I think the point is the same. This is different than perhaps other statements about Kedusha of the Jewish people that are found elsewhere in the Torah. I was contrasting it in my mind specifically with Parshas Kedoshim. We flip for a second to Parshas Kedoshim, we have a similar phrasing, right? You should speak to the entire Jewish people and say to them, Kedoshim tiyu. You should be holy. Ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokechem, because I am holy. Kedoshim tiyu. In this context, Rashi reads it as a command. Kedoshim tiyu. There's a specific behavior I'm asking you to engage in that is called Kodesh, Over here, it's not a command, Kedoshim tiyu, you should be Kodesh. Rather, it's saying there's many mitzvahs in this parsha. One of them is this one, treifa, not eating a treifa in the field. And if you engage in those things, then by default, you will be my holy people. I'm not asking something of you that's extra over and above the mitzvahs in this parsha. I'm asking you specifically to engage in the mitzvahs of this parsha in order to gain your status. It's a lot to think about in terms of the context of this pasuk, Kodesh. When we're called Kodesh in the Torah, and what exactly is it saying? Is it saying to us, on the one hand, that we have an automatic status of Kedusha that we then, have to live up to, but it's ours to keep? Or like in our pasuk, is it saying that there's a way to gain that title, to earn that title, and if we don't do what's right, we won't earn that title? Or a third permutation, is it giving us an actual command to do something above and beyond the mitzvahs of the Torah to be holy people, to have a mitzvah to be holy? Is it a title and status issue like in option A and B, although A and B are a little bit different? Or is it a mitzvah in the sense that there's something to engage in terms of added holiness over and above the simple mitzvahs as they're stated in the Torah? So I'm pointing to this Rashi today to give you a little bit of the context of this pasuk and to try to help read it, but also to kind of alert you and to flag this as an interesting topic in general as we go through the Torah and we see different references to Kedusha and to seemingly commanding language when it comes to Kedusha, right? Anshe Kodesh tihiyun li, you should be unto me. And so we have to be a little bit discerning as to whether those are really commands, and if they aren't a command, what is exactly saying about our status in terms of Kedusha? One way or the other, we have the responsibilities of the Torah to live up to. One way or the other, we want to try to achieve a status of Kedusha. One way or the other, it's not up to us to determine whether we are Kodesh or not. Tabta Kodesh Baruch Hu. And all we can do is do our best to get there. But it's interesting to look, so to speak, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu's perspective at whether this kind of status and title is something that's an obvious given that we are born with or something that we have to achieve. I hope you have a great day, everybody. Take care.
Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Sorry for the interruption.
Thanks. Take care.